Yo, it is such a good time to be a handheld gamer. In 2025, we have a ton of options to choose from. But right now, what we've got over here are the two best options you can pick, at least on the PC side of things, with the Legion Go 2 and the ROG Xbox Ally X. But before we jump into it, we have to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, Framer. As a creator, shortcuts are everything when you're in the zone, and the second you reach for a drop down, you know your flow is gone. So we needed something faster. We added this. This is the Creator Micro from Framer and Work Louder, a macro pad built for creators like us. You map every button, every dial, every function to how you work. We customize it to match our workflow and our vibe. The aluminum body, the tactile feel, and the glow? It feels like something that belongs on our desk. And it's super customizable with additional keycaps. It's really functional and immediately earned a spot in the setup. If you live in editing software like we do, this changes how you work. If you want to check it out though, I'll have links down below in the description. And not gonna lie, we might need more of these in the studio. Now, if you're looking for the very best in the handheld gaming PC market right now, these are the two you want to look at. They both have AMD's new Ryzen Z2 Extreme processors, which means they're gonna be able to handle AAA titles, all the games that you'd want, obviously not at the max settings or anything, but you'll be able to play all of those games pretty smoothly on these. So they've got the same processor powering them, but as you can tell, the hardware here looks extremely different. With the Xbox Ally X, we're looking at a 7-inch 1080p 120Hz display, whereas the Legion Go 2 has an 8.8-inch OLED 144Hz display, an absolute behemoth in terms of screen size, the biggest we've seen on a gaming handheld. Now, even though the Xbox Ally X doesn't have an OLED display like the Legion does, it's still a really nice IPS display. Colors look vibrant. It's a great looking display. So in terms of color representation and how vibrant and colorful the screens are, especially with games, I'm actually not mad at either displays. They both look good. OLED is obviously OLED, so it looks better. But when I'm on the Xbox Ally, I'm not necessarily missing this screen outside of its size. So for me, an 8.8-inch OLED display is absolutely phenomenal. I love me a gigantic screen. I'm always the guy who opts for the bigger device, whether it's like a laptop or a handheld. I personally like the bigger devices from like a utility perspective, but I will say this, the Legion Go 2, big, beautiful device, it's great, but it is far more cumbersome to take around with you. Like, this is something that needs its own space and it needs its own bag. You just gotta be very, very careful throwing this into your backpack because it eats up a lot of space. This is not just like throwing your Switch into your backpack. And the same goes with this guy, but to a lesser degree, because it is a wider device and it even has those grips. These are both not exactly backpack friendly, especially if you wanna protect it with a case, but very much so with the Legion Go 2. This is not as portable as the Xbox Ally X. And that's probably like the biggest difference between the two here, just that form factor. So we've got the large display here with the Nintendo Switch style for the overall hardware. So these controllers are actually able to be removed. So you can pop them down and you have one over here, and then you can do the same on this side. So you've got these removable controllers. This is where the 8.8-inch display makes a lot of sense. Feels like I'm gaming on a tablet right now, and it's just way more immersive than it would be with like a smaller 7-inch display. Now, me personally, I could take both of these on a plane and feel completely fine, but I think most people would enjoy the way the ROG feels on the go versus the Go 2. Not to mention the Xbox Ally X is built to feel like a gaming device. It's meant to feel like an Xbox controller. So it is really comfortable to game on this. And in general, that's a huge deal. I will say on the comfort side of things, I do think the ROG Xbox Ally X is a more comfortable device to use than the Legion Go 2. It's lighter. The grips feel very familiar as a controller console player. So this one just feels really nice. I even really like the way the joysticks feel. So these are thicker than what you get with the Legion Go 2. So the Legion Go 2 has a much thinner and skinnier feeling joystick. So for me, this is just not as comfortable to use when it comes to certain kinds of games. Because if I'm playing a game that's really fast paced, like let's say a first person shooter, I'm like digging into these joysticks, and I just like having a little bit more cushion for the push-in when I'm playing with the ROG versus what I'm getting with the Legion Go 2. And it's evident that that was the goal that Microsoft wanted for this system. The Xbox feel like, you feel like you're playing with an Xbox controller, but with a screen, similar to like what we saw Sony do with the PlayStation Portal. Whereas what Lenovo went for was just a ton of options and ways to play the Legion Go 2. So obviously with the Legion Go 2, you got the standard handheld mode. You've also got that undocked switch mode where you can have the Legion in front of you, controllers in each hand. But then you've got this other mode where you take that right controller and you basically are able to turn it into this joystick mouse-like experience. So you throw it into this base and then you hit this switch at the bottom to turn on the optical switch. And basically when it's like this, you're able to use this joystick as like your mouse. And this is basically like your FPS mode. If you want to play a game like Call of Duty or maybe Apex, you can basically get that mouse-like feel when you're playing the game. So if you're a PC player, you don't have to go all the way onto the controller side of things. You still get that mouse-like experience. For the folks who primarily play first-person shooters, there's all kinds of buttons built onto this controller for that in mind. You've got like a scroll wheel and multiple buttons that you can press when you're holding it like this. So if you are like a go hard in that sense, this is a pretty cool experience and just another way that you can play with the Go 2. And obviously because these are both like mini PCs, you can connect these to an external monitor and play with a mouse and keyboard, controller, your pick, or with the Go 2, you can take off the controllers and play like that. But that's something they both kind of share in that regard. But as you can see, the Go 2 is made for that like PC gamer who wants all the things. That's what the PC gaming experience is like, right? You have your PC, it can do all the things a console can do and then some. Whereas this, it's more so focused to give you just that handheld gaming experience, especially because Microsoft added software on this with their full screen experience, basically just giving you the handheld part of things, where this feels much more like a gaming PC. Not to mention, this right controller has another input with this giant touchpad, so you can basically use this to control your mouse. This is another one of the many ways you can navigate the Go 2. Now, when it comes to performance, these have the same chip, so you're pretty much getting the same thing. If you benchmark the two though, you might see that the Xbox Ally X does benchmark a bit higher, but in the real world, they pretty much feel the same. They're both capable of playing AAA titles. You're not getting max settings out of these or anything. You're still gonna want your settings to be pretty conservative so that they run smoothly and you get as much battery life as possible. But for me, when it comes to actual gameplay and performance, they're pretty much in the same category. The difference here when it comes to gameplay, actual gameplay, is going to be the overall feel, like the way it feels to hold the controllers, the way it responds to different stuff. That's a matter of preference. Like, which one do you go for? Do you want the thing that feels more comfortable in the hand, even though it has like a slightly smaller screen? Or do you want like the bigger, more immersive screen? Like, the screen size to me is a bonus, but to someone else, it might just be too big. It might be too cumbersome. And when it comes to battery life, with the Go 2, you might get like a couple minutes more playing like a AAA title than you would with the Xbox Ally X, but we're talking maybe like 15 to 20 minutes or so. So not a huge difference. I don't know, if you're playing in short spurts, that might be enough. But overall, these kind of devices, you want to plug them in as much as possible. But if you're talking about being on the go, this will last you maybe a little bit longer. Interestingly enough though, when it comes to the non-gameplay experience, maybe if you're just like on Windows, Ally X does last a bit longer. So if you're someone who wants to really use them as like both a PC and a gaming device, depending on how much you use the PC, this guy will last you quite a bit longer on just plain Windows. They're both like 2-hour devices when it comes to actual gameplay though, on like a really big title. Now we got to talk about the software experience when it comes to these devices. And that's supposed to be, you know, a big selling point for the Xbox Ally X, because it's just supposed to feel like you're playing a regular handheld, something like a console where you just jump in, you don't really interact with Windows much. And that's the, you know, full screen experience. And the experience is supposed to be smooth. You're supposed to be able to just like swipe up and go to wherever you want. To me, it's an okay experience. It's not the cleanest in the world. You guys can see as I'm like trying to swipe through right now. And if you do want to interact with Windows, you can actually swipe up and you can hit the Windows desktop. Once you do that though, all of the background tasks that the full screen experience suppresses from the Windows side of things, those get activated. Your performance is going to take a little bit of a hit, but navigating the console through, you know, this full screen experience, it's fine, but it does take some getting used to, especially because there's the Xbox, you know, Game Pass software, and then you have this like extra software from Armory Crate on the Asus side of things. It can be a little bit confusing and it takes some getting used to, especially in the beginning. Whereas with the Legion Go 2, it's all just the Legion space. This is like their one spot to do pretty much everything from button mapping to getting access to your games, all right here. And I kind of just like that everything is in one spot versus being split up between like the Xbox Game Pass side and then the Asus Armory Crate sides. But no Windows is supposed to be like the big selling point, but it's still Windows. And a lot of people are up in arms about that. But one thing I will give the Xbox Ally X some credit for is within the software, you can make a lot of setting tweaks that you might not necessarily be able to do over here. So you can tinker with this guy a little bit more. Surprising considering this is meant to give you more of a console experience than a PC experience. Me personally, I just like having everything in one spot versus with what's going on over here with the software kind of split. Now we can't forget audio is also a part of the gaming experience outside of just like the screen and the controllers. So audio here, I'm actually a fan of the Xbox Ally X speakers a bit more because they're front firing, whereas with the Go 2, they're upward firing. So the audio is actually going away from you, which doesn't feel like it makes sense, but there's really nowhere else to put the speakers when you have like a detachable controller like this because you can't take the speakers off. It doesn't make sense. It's just pure physics. Like this will be a better experience because it's coming towards you. Now we do need to talk about pricing. So with the ROG Xbox Ally X, that one goes for $999, so pretty standard price. Can't really move around. If you want the cheaper option, you can get the ROG Xbox Ally. The specs aren't as good, but you can save a couple $100 there. Now, when it comes to the Legion Go 2, the starting price is $1099, but it's not the same chip as the Z2 Extreme. If we're straight up talking Z2 Extreme, that's $1350. So it is a massive difference in terms of price. So then what we gotta think about is, are all the bells and whistles that the Go 2 offers with the detachable controllers, first-person shooter mode, the bigger OLED display, do you care enough about all of those things to spend the extra $350? Now, that's not even plus tax. So we're talking like gaming PC, gaming laptop territory for a handheld, and that's where this is. Now for me, because the actual gameplay performance is so similar, and the fact that this is actually more comfortable to use in the hand, I gotta say, it is way easier for me to recommend this guy to the everyday person who's just looking for, you know, one of the best gaming PC handhelds on the market right now. The Xbox ROG Ally X does all of the important things, but for a lot less than Lenovo's asking for with the Go 2. Now, the Go 2 is going to be great for someone who wants like everything, right? You know, the folks who want the best of the best in terms of overall hardware. That is what this is. I feel like this is like the pinnacle of what a handheld could be. This is absolutely that device. The Xbox Ally X is the more economic option, which is insane to say at $1,000. But when you're comparing these two titans, that's what you're looking at. Me personally, I know I enjoy the feeling of playing on the Go 2 more, but if I had to go out and buy these two devices right now, my money would probably go over here. The experience is awesome. It feels good to use in the hand, and I know I'm not missing out on that much. Now, I know people have their gripes with Windows on these handhelds, and especially Microsoft with the way they handled the whole Xbox side of things with the Xbox Ally X, but we're just here to compare the two. So if you're trying to choose between them, this is everything you need to know. Whether or not Microsoft delivered on their whole Xbox experience promise, that's for another video. But we'll catch you guys in the next one. Let me know what you would pick down below in the comments. Peace. It's such a hard choice until you think about the price.